Bergkamp Wonderland, ein Arsenal-Podcast, ein Weltcup-Spezialteil, Rennen 155.
And with us this week, we have our very own grumpy Venezuelan, John.
Hello, hello.
And we have our very own potty-mouthed, never going to do it again, Jason.
Good afternoon, Danny.
Are you sorry, Jason, for abusing the listeners' ears with your foul torrent of rude potty language?
Oh, I'm heartbroken. No, not at all.
And then we have our pork chop Lothario, rock and roll legend, Kris, with a K. How you doing, Kris?
Ahoy, I'm good. Yourself?
Oh, fat and half naked. And finally, poor little Dom sat down there in the middle of the night talking to a computer like a weirdo. If anyone comes in and burgles him, they'll just walk straight back out. It's Dom.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good.
Right, let's hope that all works because that lovely lady who did the introduction is my personal assistant, Helga or Volga. I don't know. It's one or the other. I can't make my mind up because I've got no idea what the hell she's saying. So, World Cup final. It's all over and done with. I think I tweeted last night, 64 games, 5 billion minutes, 600 trillion seconds. Oh, fuck me, I was bored shitless, but what a final. Who should we go to first? I'll go to John to make him feel loved and special. John, tell us what you thought about the final.
Well, the final wasn't, to be honest, it wasn't anything that I expected. I think the Khedira not starting the match changed the game plan for Germany, and then Kramer going off as well. You know, you got to give it up to the Argentinians, don't you? That defense that's much maligned, a lot of people didn't expect a lot from them, has really carried that team all the way to the final. You know, Messi kind of doing a disappearing act in the second half, Lavezzi being taken off at halftime, Higuain being the flat track bully that I've been screaming about for the last 2 years.
How much did you laugh and clap your hands when he missed that open goal? Oh my God!
Well, it's just typical. It's typical Higuain. It's not a surprise. The only people that think Higuain is world class are the ones that sit there and tweet all day and talk about, well, I haven't seen this player, but from everything that I know, he's underrated or he's world class. Those are the only idiots that sit there and have opinions over these type of players. But, you know, you got to take your hat off, tip your hat to Mascherano. I thought he had a tremendous tournament. And if it wasn't for his defensive intervention, given the lack of offensive output from these, quote unquote, best ever and quote unquote world class players, I don't think that Argentina would have been in that final. So, hats off to them. They played their ass off last night, just to get them as far as they did. Germany were underwhelming, but I think that had a lot to do with the strategy Argentina deployed. We were talking before the pod. Joaquin Lowe sending in Götze told him, I want you to show the world that you're better than Messi. And the kid went out and made his mark on this World Cup and won him the cup. What more can you say? It was a lot of drama. I thought it was going to go to penalties, and then all of a sudden he pulled that, out of nowhere. And just a great tournament, one of the best that I've seen. I don't think there can be any doubt about that. Just the drama of every single round was apparent. And this was perfect to top it off.
I can't argue with any of that lot. Just looking at the stats, it was possession, Germany 61%, Argentina 39%. Shots on target, Germany 5, Argentina 0. Shots wide, Germany 2, Argentina 8. Dom, what did you make of the final? And did you think most of those shots wide were all down to Higuain not being able to hit a barn door from 2 foot?
Yeah, I saw even Messi miss a couple wide that you would normally just about at least think that he's going to test the keeper. I think John's hitting the nail on the head with a lot of that, with the tactical side of things that Argentina really did turn up, and they set up so well defensively that the space that a lot of the Germans like to create their attacks in between the two lines of four just wasn't available. I think, Ozil did really well with the space that he did have, but even when he moved central, I think he was probably a little bit more effective out wide because he had a bit more space out there. So, with Argentina only having 35% or 39% possession, they still managed to create some pretty good chances that they just didn't have that same clinical finish that the Germans ended up having at the end of the game. And yeah, the goal that Götze managed to pull off was definitely one worthy of winning a World Cup. It was technically absolutely superb. So obviously, pretty happy that the Germans won. I think they've been the best team throughout the tournament. And there was a stat that, that Argentina hadn't scored a goal for some ridiculous amount of minutes. So, I think they had a pretty soft draw as well. Getting
5 hours.
You look at their side of the draw and the group that they had, and then the teams that they had to play to get through, as opposed to the other side of the draw where there was probably a little bit more talent to have to deal with. So I think the Germans are definitely deserved winners, and I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone that disagreed.
Very good, Kris. Poor old Schweinsteiger in midfield. He looked like he just played a game against you and he'd been showboating for 120 minutes. What did you make of the absolutely amazing way that he carried on going and the amount of fouls? Because I'm just looking at the fouls here. Surprisingly, Germany did 21 fouls. Argentina only had 15, most of which were on Schweinsteiger.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really, really class footballer. He's grown into the tournament. We touched on it the last time that we sort of felt like he was almost being readied for the latter stages by being named in the squad and sort of almost led gently through the group stages, just playing a few minutes here and there to get his fitness right and then introducing him at the right time. And if you're going to win a World Cup, it's all about squad management. You've got to make sure that you, as Dom said on the injury front, the last pod, your injuries and your muscles are under an intense amount of pressure throughout the short period of time that a World Cup is on. And it's all about making sure that you have your optimum players available at the most important times. And Germany played that to a T with Schweinsteiger, just making sure that he was really fit and ready to go. And the fact he got through extra time as well at that optimum level, having been kicked up in the air repeatedly from the Argentines. And obviously that shot from Aguero, which he was really lucky to stay on the pitch for committing, and Schweinsteiger still was like, no, I'll play it on. And I think even the crowd they gave him a standing ovation when he ran back onto the pitch after getting treatment. And he's a player that I think he's the sort of player that if you got in your side, you love him, and most opposition fans hate him because of the way he plays. He's just one of those players that just never says die, never gives up, and fights to the last. And his spirit sort of epitomised what was good about Germany last night, just giving all they had. And then obviously they got the goal and deservedly won the tournament.
We lost you there for about 2 seconds. Did you say anything of great importance?
No, I apologise. Sorry, I just had a brief mic slip there. So
You're muting yourself mid-talk. Oh,
yes.
You're editing yourself as you speak. Talking about people who should edit themselves as they speak. Jason, what wondrous views have you got on this game, and how excited were you with the performances of some of the German players who were absolutely, I think all of them to a man, were absolutely fantastic?
To be honest, I didn't expect Argentina to play as well as they did. I thought they were great. Mascherano was fantastic. They didn't give Germany any room in the box or just outside the box in that central area. They were magnificent. Schweinsteiger, as Kris said, he was just, he was a warrior there. He put himself in position. He controlled the game. He was magic. I thought the German team, all the way through, did what they had to do. They were fantastic. I'm so chuffed they won. The cult of the team won rather than the cult of the individual with Messi, etc. With Argentina. And, I thought Ozil was fantastic. Boateng was magnificent. He really covered Hummels really well. I felt sorry for the lad Kramer. He took hell of a blow in the first half, having to go off after having his chance in the World Cup final. It was a great game of football and a fantastic goal to win it. Fair play to Götze. He took that really coolly. Schürrle did well on the left. Great ball in, and what a finish. Goal worthy of winning the World Cup. Magnificent. But, Neuer at the back gives them so much stability. I think that's why they play the high line, and it could have caught them out of the lack of pace with the centre halves, but Neuer sweeping at the back really gives them confidence and allows them to play that high line. But it was a great game of football. I really enjoyed it. I was so chuffed for the Germans. It was brilliant.
It's good to see an actual team that has been brilliant all the way through the tournament. I think they had a couple of low points where they struggled against Algeria, and that went to extra time and ended up beating them 2-1. But then some of the stuff that Neuer was doing, like when he ran across to take the throw in, you just think, oh, even Jens Lehmann was looking at that going, oh, easy boy, easy. That's a little bit mental. But yeah, you're right, with Boateng playing, he was a very, very good player. Wasn't he the one that was he at Man City?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
I always get those lot mixed up.
Kevin's brother, isn't he? Or half brother or something.
Yeah, Kevin's self-named.
For City as well. That's the funny thing.
I'm looking here. He only played 16 games for City.
You can just see Neuer at Mad Yen school, can't you? Learning how to be a lunatic goalkeeper. You can see him there thinking, oh, how can I be a little bit madder? It's brilliant. But yeah, you're right, Dan.
£22 million well spent. I know there was a massive fury in Germany when he left Schalke to go to Bayern, because he said he'd never leave, and then he went, and then he just proved himself to be an outstanding goalkeeper. But Schweinsteiger's coming up to 30. I remember when he first started playing for Bayern, and he was playing, I think he was a left winger or a right winger, and now he's played just over 500 games.
Do you remember that goal in the German World Cup he scored? Him and Lahm scored screamers in the World Cup 8 years ago for Germany in the early stage, in the group stages, and it was payback for Schweinsteiger as well for that git Maxi Rodriguez punching him in the back of that game where it all kicked off afterwards. I got to be honest with you, I thought
that was after the penalty shootout.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Football won last night. I know the Germans can be can play the angles as well, but Argentina consistently been a dirty team. You thought it was the diving squad half the game, the way they go over. Seriously, if you actually shot one of them, you wouldn't know the difference.
I'm just looking at a picture of that Christopher Kramer. Now, when he walked off, it looked like he'd been hit by a bus. If you go to soccerway.com and have a look at his picture there, he looks like he's been hit by a bus anyway.
Poor bugger.
But wow, that was a move that WWF would have been proud of, Chris?
WWE, Danny.
No, I'm old school. It's WWF. They can get the F out on their own.
Those pandas get everywhere.
I was going to say the pandas will be chasing you with your chairs for that.
Bugger them. I ain't having any of that nonsense. Anyone else got anything to say about the final? John, you've been a little bit quiet. Are you got any wise words?
Just sticking to the running order, Danny.
This won't last, will it? We've only got a running order because after John doing such a superb job in the last podcast where he did a fantastic job of hosting, normally I just go, well, here we are. Right, everyone will talk at once. So this lot have pressurised me into writing a running order. Next on the running order is Player of the Tournament. We should start. Go on, John. Player of the Tournament.
Oh, wow. I mean, for me, I'm going to go a little controversial and say Neuer.
Enough for being the best goalkeeper performance at a World Cup in living memory.
Well, no, just because when you think of, a lot of people these days like to be, have those sexy picks. James or even Sanchez having a great World Cup, or, I'm not even going to say the name from the player last night that won the award. We'll get to that later. Or Mueller or something of that along those lines. I think that defense, for being so deficient on the fullbacks until Lamb got forcibly put a right back, and the lack of pace in the middle, I think Neuer did a tremendous job and allowed them to survive, basically, and allow that attack to go forward, unimpeded. So my player of the tournament is Neuer.
Who should we go to now? Stick your hands up. Oh, Jason. Jason has his hands up. Are you back from the toilet, Jace?
I am indeed.
Did you wash your hands?
I did indeed.
Okay, go on then. Your player of the tournament.
I haven't really got a player of the tournament. I'd agree with John regarding Neuer. I think he's fabulous. I'd love to see him in an Arsenal shirt. But my team of the tournament is Iran. They haven't got a pot to win. They can't afford to give their tops away. They're some very.
They seriously couldn't give them away.
Yeah, no, they couldn't give them away. They can't afford it.
Yeah, they had a certain amount that they went to the tournament with.
Yeah, wow. Exactly. They got some decidedly average players there, which would struggle to get into the Barbican Pirates.
Oi.
Hey.
Oh, no, sorry, they're not that bad, are they?
Oi.
Sorry.
How about their manager, Carlos Queiroz?
Yeah,
They must be
but-
paying him a few quid. That's why
all
they
the
can't
money's
afford
gone.
shirts.
I thought you meant our manager. Then I was going to say, don't you dare.
If he says he's a football manager, you know what I'm going to say.
Don't say it.
You know, I thought Iran really showed character. You know, they worked hard, they played for each other. There were a number of good teams like Costa Rica and Algeria, which surprised people. But for me, I really enjoyed Iran. I thought they were great. I thought they were like a breath of fresh air. They had a crack, and they did themselves justice.
So, for an extra brownie point, can you pronounce the name of the player who scored the goal for them, currently playing for Charlton Athletic?
Go away. No, I can't.
It is Reza Guhulachanejahanurina. There you go.
In Wales.
Rez to his mates.
That was terrible.
In Wales, we pronounce it Boyo.
Is it?
Yeah.
Bless you.
Boyo up front did well.
Dom, player of the tournament, or just completely ignore me and pick a team in the tournament, which seems to be the current trend.
I'll pick a player. I think for me it was James, mainly because I think he gave me the most joy watching him run around and play. He's just a player that he's very pretty on the eye. And I think, and not only that, like I knew who he was before. You're beautiful as well, Jace. Don't worry. I think you're a handsome man. Does anyone else think that he looks like Schweinsteiger in his picture a little bit? Have a look.
Oh, he does a bit, actually. Yeah, he does.
The who looks like Schweinsteiger?
Jason.
Oh, he does. All hooded up, ready for action.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yes.
Lovely.
Sorry. So for me, it was James. I think he was just really classy. I just like that kind of player. He gave everybody grief that he played against, and he was consistent too. He didn't go missing in any of the games that he played.
Oh, good. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, I'm done.
Ah, Chris, did you pick one? I can't remember.
I didn't, but I will, by all means.
Or you pick one.
I pick one. Well, it's got to be Fred, hasn't it? He was fantastic.
Frege, if you're going to say his name properly.
By the way, Reza Guchanaheliad.
Oh, piss off.
Is I believe the man you were referring to.
Just because oh, what? Then who's the manager of the Barbican Pirates?
He's a legend, mate.
Is he?
Absolute legend.
Ex-England right back.
Tactical genius, mate.
Yeah.
Tactical genius. Moving swiftly on. I mean, I would have gone along with what Dom said in regards to James, so I'll just pick out a couple just to chuck into the mix of people that impressed me. One would be Valbuena at France. I don't think he had a particularly blow away tournament, but he's one of those players that I don't think anyone really rated at all coming into the tournament, and he made France tick very well. Also a mention for the Dutch left back Danny Blint, who was fantastic.
Daly.
Daly. His dad's Danny, isn't he?
What a player his dad was, though.
Oh, absolutely.
And his dad's assistant manager for Holland, isn't he?
He is.
Imagine the pride you've got being assistant manager and seeing your boy out there doing that. Wow.
Oh,
yeah. Sorry, boys. The finish in the third and fourth place.
Oh, what a finish that was! Yeah. The little step to make the half yard for it to come onto his foot. I mean, the little sort of flick up to hit it was just. Well, it's class. If a world-class player does that, everyone's all over the place about it. So yeah, no, I agree with that.
It was magic, wasn't it? It was really, you're blown away by that. It's such a cool head.
Oh, I agree with that. The only other one that I'd pick out, I'm probably picking out, well, other than Valbuena, I'll pick out another defender that really impressed me, and no surprises out there, it'll be a USA player, but Fabian Johnson, the young right back from Hoffenheim, played for the US. I know a lot of people sort of gave rave reviews to the lad that came on to replace Johnson in the game against Belgium, whose name completely escapes me, which I will think it'll come to me in a minute, but I just thought that Johnson was terrific. Yedlin, was the guy that came on, the young lad. But
I was about to say that.
But Fabian Johnson, I mean, he's 26, but he's had his sort of breakthrough season in the Bundesliga this year at Hoffenheim, and I think he's possibly going to be a player that will move to a slightly bigger European team in the summer. So they were the kind of the three that caught my eye. Other than that, goalkeepers Ochoa and Ospina were decent, and there was a certain lad called Alexis who plays for Chile, and I think we might have just signed him, vaguely. But yeah, he was very impressive, but I suppose I'm a bit biased now.
So everyone had one player and you've had, 12?
Well, I say James was the one, but I didn't want to repeat everything Dom had said because everything he said was bang on.
Didn't John say? What did John say? John, where did you pick?
Neuer.
Oh, of course you did. Someone asked me my player of the tournament.
Who was your player of the tournament?
Danny.
Oh, funny you should ask that. Mine's going to be the one who gave me the most entertainment, the one who I look forward to watching playing, a certain Julio Cesar, who let in 13 goals in 5 games. Oh, wow.
QPR's finest.
Oh, stunning, and thank God we never signed him. What a turd of a player he is. I mean, he didn't have any help with having David Luiz playing in front of him, who permanently I'm playing 6-a-side mode, and I'm rush goalkeeper, rush defender, everything. You must be he probably aged 20 years during that tournament. I mean, James Rodriguez is for me the player of the tournament, but the one who gave me the most amount of joy was Julio Cesar, you absolute mug.
Can I say something
Yeah.
as far as that defense for Brazil? I mean,
or lack of.
Yeah, exactly. We all know that Luis going for 50 million is a joke.
Jeez.
But where was Gustavo during all this? You know, we had such a clamor amongst the ranks of Arsenal supporters that Gustavo's the answer. Gustavo's the answer. Guess what, guys? Gustavo is not the fucking answer.
I think he was out there doing his practice lineups when he was joining the what's those blokes who strop around singing the songs? You got the biker, the policeman, the construction worker.
The village.
The village. That's it. He would look like a stunt double from the village people with that moustache.
Can I disagree with you, John?
No.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm not through. Hulk as well was one that pre-tournament a lot of people had us linked to, and some were excited in some quarters. This tournament, although he had some bright spots, it kind of showed that he's an unfinished product, to a huge extent. You touched on Cesar. There was a lot of players on that Brazilian team that we've been touted to have been linked to Bernard as well.
Yeah, before he went to Russia.
Yeah, so
Ukraine.
I mean Ukraine.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of players on that team that we have been linked to or are linked to currently that, I mean, they showed their stripes this tournament, didn't they?
But David Luiz was the biggest joke of the World Cup. Holding Neymar's jersey up, crying like a bitch the way he did. He was a bit of a joke, wasn't he?
The thing about Luiz though, he has his moments. I mean, like that free kick was great, but
he's a centre half.
Yeah,
He went to centre half to defend.
The problem is he a center half or is he more a defensive midfielder, box to box midfielder?
But they've gone. I mean, you look at the first minute of that fourth place playoff game. Thiago Silva should be seeing red. That is not a challenge you make in the first minute of a game. He took down Robin, and he should have been off. Why he wasn't sent off, I've no idea. But they've had every decision throughout the tournament.
Well, I mean, look at the decisions that went for Brazil the tournament.
Yeah,
Croatia.
Dom, what do you think about the Brazilians that we've been linked to in this tournament?
They've been pretty underwhelming. The only thing that's impressed me about Hulk's the size of his glutes. It looks like when he walks, he looks like his ass cheeks are chewing caramel.
I thought, it's not been too bad. I thought he's done quite well. He's a bit of a unit. You're going to struggle getting the ball off him, aren't you?
He's awful. I don't know. Like, who would you play? I don't know where you would play him and who in place of in our team. He's not really. I don't know. He's a little bit of show, no end product. Maybe he doesn't seem to have much else other than blasting one from outside the box. We've already got Podolski that can do that. So.
Sorry, he's all name and shot, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's not really any of the Brazilian players that I would desperately be clamouring for to put in our team. I thought Oscar started the tournament well, but sort of faded a little bit. But yeah, we were linked with Bernard, I remember that, and yeah, he didn't. And Willian as well. They both didn't really do too much. There's been a lot of sort of talk here through a few of the pundits on our local station that was covering the World Cup, and they were all just really ripping into Scolari and mainly about the way that the tactics were set up and the style of play, where it was much more about trying to win in a moment rather than playing that Brazilian flair and playing the Brazilian way, so to speak. So maybe a lot of it was down to the way that the manager was getting them to play.
Let me ask you.
Sorry, can I just say one thing?
Oh yeah, God, it's kicking off.
They didn't mourn when he won them a World Cup, did he?
Yeah,
there's a lack of talent there. Sorry,
John,
sorry.
No. Go ahead. I mean, that's a valid point, but I don't think it's a lack of talent. I think it's a lack of choosing the right talent. I mean, I'm going to be very frank. a Kaká would have made a difference here.
Definitely, and even a Ronaldinho would have done.
A Pato would have made a difference here instead of playing
striking options.
A Joe and Fred. I think there's players that were left out for personal reasons that I think make a difference in the club. In this national team. Pato didn't have a great time of it this year, but when he was called upon in the national team, he always performed. And you can't say that of every other player. There was a lot of talk here on local news about how the scum down the road have ruined Paulinho. So I think do they have talent? Absolutely, they have talent. I mean, Brazil is filled with football talent. I don't think the right talent was picked for what they needed to do. What I'm kind of laughing at is I'm seeing Willian, I'm seeing Oscar, I'm seeing Cesc, I'm seeing all these players, Costa, in the same team for Chelsea next year. That's a hell of a lot of egos with a hell of a lot of underperformers, in general, that are gonna have to try to get along, and it's gonna be fun for us to watch.
Chris, what were you going to say before the internet gremlins got you?
Sorry about that. I apologise.
No one even noticed until I just brought it up.
Yeah, I was going to say there's some editing for you. No, I just wanted to briefly jump on to John's point just about Gustavo. Whilst I agree that he's had a largely poor tournament, I do think he's a much better player than he was given credit for and has been given credit for. A lot of people have said that he's been one of the worst players, and I totally disagree with that. I think the thing with Gustavo is he's an all-action kind of box-to-box DM in that he likes to break up the play and then drive forward. Kind of the best way I can describe him is a little bit like Diaby does, which I know is hilarious because the guy hasn't played, but it's that kind of style where he'll win a tackle and then try and drive forward before releasing the pass, whereas like a Gilberto Silva, for example, would just win the tackle, give it sideways or give it 5 yards, and then he would just continue to do that job. Gustavo likes to do a bit of both, and that's very much what he has done for Bayern in the past and what he now currently does with Wolfsburg. Whereas I think Paulinho, obviously we're slightly biased here, but the amount of money that lot paid for him, he's a very average footballer. And he's one of those sort of players that rightly got criticised because he made absolutely no effect on a Brazil side. I just think that Gustavo is the sort of player that I think he would have been a lot better if Brazil had played to accommodate his style. And when you've got a player like David Luiz behind you who sort of wins the ball in defence and then just goes charging upfield like headless chicken, it makes you look like a worse player because you're having to do the jobs of two. And his natural game was not what Brazil were asking him to do.
But Chris, nobody did that job for Brazil. Nobody did that job for Brazil.
No, that's fair.
They were, whoever they picked, nobody did that job. Nobody defended.
They
were like clowns.
They haven't had a player since Gilberto to do that. They haven't had that.
I agree 100% with Paulinho's, your take on Paulinho. A player at the end of the day has to have a certain amount of, spatial awareness is what I call it. If you know that you're not going to be able to tackle, intercept and move forward, and then you see that the rest of the team is on the back foot, you have to have that spatial awareness given your position as the box-to-box holding midfielder, defensive midfielder, however you want to call it, to hang back and kind of rein in that offensive output that you want to put forth. He didn't do that. So you can blame the system, you can blame his teammates, you can blame a lot of things, but at the end of the day, he's a player with a spatial awareness, and it was lacking because a lot of the times when Germany put them to the test, he was completely out of position.
I think a lot was made of the manager picking the players that had done so well in the 2013 Confederations Cup. Now you look at Freire in there, he scored 5 goals in 4 games. He got 2 against Italy, he got 2 against Spain, I think that was in the final. And then he hadn't scored again until a friendly against Serbia this summer. And then he only scored 1 goal in the World Cup. And then I think a big deal was made. The manager made a big deal about the fact that he was going to pick the players that did well then. Virtually, you had no chance of getting inside that Brazil squad, no matter what you did. So, like John was saying, Kaká and Pato. I mean, Pato's had trouble with my club's Corinthians. He's been terrible there. And then they've loaned. I think he's gone to Sao Paulo now. And then Kaká been moved around. I don't think that's helped. But he's just been so unwilling to let anybody else back in the squad because, like you were saying, he won the World Cup in, was it 2002 as manager?
Yeah.
And so I know it all. No one tells me what to do. He's come in and he's failed because most of the midfield was ruined with David Luiz just charging through with the ball every single time like some kind of snowplow.
Yeah.
Combined with that, all the other teams, the Frances, the Germanys, etc., they all developed quite nicely from their warm-up games into the tournament, didn't they? You know, they've all developed well. They've all developed their style of play. You know, I thought France were a great team in this World Cup. I thought, you know, unfortunate the game against Germany for them, really. But, you know, Brazil just stayed where they were in the Confederations Cup in 2013.
Right, so should we move on to the next subject, which is going to be highs and lows of the tournament?
Yep.
Okay, Dom, one high, one low.
I'll be a bit patriotic and say the high for me was Tim Cahill's goal against the Netherlands. I thought, you know, if that was one of the top teams and top players that did that, people would be, well, I mean, it already got a fair bit of credit, but I think it would have gotten even more if it was a Dutch skunk or someone like that managed to, on his opposite foot from a volley, smash it in over the top of the keeper like he did. I thought that was absolutely brilliant and made me quite happy watching that, and especially since he's been such a great player for Australia for a long time, and it was his last World Cup, so that was really nice. Low point, probably the Brazil-Colombia game, mainly because I wanted Colombia to win, but I just thought it was a really poor game as far as the referee went, and how many cynical tackles went on both sides, but mainly the rotational fouls on Cuadrado and James throughout the whole game without a yellow card being given until Thiago Silva ran into the goalkeeper while he was trying to have a goal kick. So I think that was a bit of a disappointment because it would have been great to be able to watch that game without such a big influence from the referee.
Someone asked me what mine are because when Gimli hosts, he never gets asked the question. So somebody asked me my high and my low.
What's your high and your low?
God, I hadn't really thought about this. I think my high point would have been, James Rodriguez. He's everything about him. I thought watching him play was absolutely brilliant. And then realising that was the player that Monaco had spent all that money on. I didn't realise that was the same bloke. And like Don was saying, I really enjoyed watching the Brazil. I'm reading this. Really enjoyed watching Australia.
Oh.
I thought it's lovely to see a team go out there and play without fear and play. They thought they were going to finish bottom, so just go out there and enjoy themselves, and they did. And it was like the USA. They went out there and they played brilliantly every game, and they were just a joy to watch. And my low point is just this really, really, really wound me up. The fact that you had those morons, Gerrard and Rooney, did absolutely nothing the entire tournament. I know Rooney scored a goal, but he was useless. And then Roy decided that everybody would get a game. And so he started the final game against Costa Rica, an absolute meaningless game, pointless game. No one cared about it. And then everybody got a game apart from Celtic's goalkeeper, Fraser Forster. That's it. That's why I couldn't say it. And then so with the second half going in, and then they decided to bring on Gerrard and Rooney. And then if that had been me, a player with a long England career like Rooney coming up, or Gerrard with over 100 caps, I'd have gone, Roy, now look, bring the goalkeeper on, let him get a game at the World Cup, and then he can say to his kids and his grandkids, I've played for England in the World Cup. But what do? They both were selfish twats, and they come on and got an extra cap each, and poor old Fraser will probably never get to another World Cup again. And that was my low point, and that just shows what utter arses those two are. So there you go. That's my little bit of a rant over. Jace, what was your high and low points?
Other than the developing teams coming through, not developing teams rather, but the Algeria, Costa Ricas of this world and the Irans and Australia, the Germany annihilation of Brazil, I thought was just fantastic. You know, I just enjoyed watching Brazil suffer so much.
So I thought you lot were winding me up because I was cooking dinner, so I was about 6 minutes behind, and so we're all talking in the WhatsApp group. And I went, oh, bloody hell, I can't believe it, and it's 2-0, and then John went, you wait, and then he did it again, and then he went, you wait till it's 5-0. I said, oh, piss off, John, it's not going to be 5-0. 5-0 it was.
It was phenomenal to watch, you know, just watching a nation fall apart, and then the Brazilian fans clapping the Germans at the end. I
That
thought,
was class.
Great credit to them. None of this nonsense that happened in the Colombia-Brazil game with David Luiz giving the fake plaudits to Rodriguez after he's kicked him all game. That was one of the low points for me.
The Brazilian fans also giving it olé, we used to at Arsenal.
Exactly, it's
Brilliant.
fantastic. That game was just a wondrous game of football.
Yeah.
The low point was the officiating of the Brazilian team throughout the tournament. I thought, the Croatia got cheated. They got lucky with the referees. It was almost like FIFA Directive 1. If it's an 80-20 decision, give it to Brazil, and that spoiled it a bit because, it was unfair, and Croatia deserved better and other teams did along the way. So that was mine.
John, go on then. Highs and lows.
Well, for me, high, Germany winning. I think a lot of us picked them before the tournament, didn't we? I know Kris, besides his America, chose Germany to pull it out in the end. A lot of us did. I mean, after the 2010 showing, you could kind of see everything coming together for them. So it was kind of great to see, them pull it off and have our lads involved in that. My low point was the injuries to all the key players going into the tournament. Falcao, Valencia, Ronaldo wasn't 100%. And I'm going to feel sorry for him for a minute before I bash him to bits. Messi being, under pressure and not 100%. Imagine how much greater this World Cup would have been, as great as it has, if all those players take part. That was kind of disappointing that we didn't get to see every team at its best.
Right, so next we're going to move on to the final person. Kris, who are you going to give your Tim Howard Award to for the best player of the tournament? And your highs and lows?
Highs and lows. The high, sorry, I'm going to be predictable, but yeah, it is American based. The John Brooks header in the game against the, Jesus Christ, I've forgotten who it bloody was now. Ghana game. Thank you, John. See how it was that vivid that I've forgotten already. No, it was a great moment. And as a whole, the amount that the country of the USA have come on and adopted football. I refuse to call it soccer, I'm sorry, but taking football to their hearts, and it definitely does seem to be a sport that's growing, and given sort of the next, probably not the next World Cup, but maybe another one in another 8 years' time, if they keep Klinsmann on board, then their future is bright. So that was a high point for me, predictably supporting them as well. I've watched them more intently than others. And with regards to the low point, might be a bit predictable, but I've got to say Robben and his horrible diving. He wasn't alone. Excuse me, don't get me wrong. There was others, there were quite a few, in fact, that were guilty of this horrible trend that is in football. But Robben is just one of these players that the shame of the way he does things and the way he sort of looks up in sheer amazement that he hasn't got a foul when it's blatantly obvious that he's tried to cheat. And that's, make no bones about this, what he does is cheating. It's not to gain an advantage. It's not part of the game. It is cheating. And that
he'll fit right in at United.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. He was an absolute see you next Tuesday when he was at Chelsea, and he still is one now. And I just think the less sort of players of his ilk, the better.
In the Spanish countries, where during the birthdays, piñatas are very popular.
Yes.
They made a fucking Robben piñata where they could bash him during the birthday parties. I'm gonna put a pic up. It's just great. It's wonderful because that's all. All of us want to do that at some point, but with a real person.
What I don't understand, one day he's going to get somebody sent off and they're going to smash him going off the pitch, thinking, well, I'm off anyway, what the hell, let's stick their head in him, see him, watch him dive around then. That would be funny. I'd pay to watch that.
He's just a despicable human being. And at the end of games for Bayern, he just walks off the pitch, doesn't he? He doesn't even go over to the fans, doesn't shake hands, doesn't do any of that stuff.
And I guess what, kind of irks me about him is he's such a good player. If he would just stick to what his strengths are, without, the BS of diving every 2 seconds, I think he would actually be more effective.
Yeah, he is a fabulous footballer, isn't he? He's such a talented guy. His pace is electrifying. And unfortunately, it's the nonsense that goes with him.
The next section we're going to move on to is goal of the tournament. Now, we've decided what this was pre-pod, and as there was only 4 goals that we decided were the most outstanding goals of the tournament, I get to not pick one because they've bullied me, and it's not really fair. John, so, your one.
I think it has to be the James goal. I mean, the control to put it down, the ball doesn't, touch the ground, off chest, right into the net, basically. Just wonderful. The player himself was great throughout the tournament. It was unfortunate, that he was targeted during the Brazil match. His career trajectory from where he started to where he's going has been amazing. So for me, that has to be at least, if not the goal, one of the goals of the tournament.
Yeah, I think we all come together and we decided these were the 4 most outstanding. So, Dom, what was your one?
For me, obviously, Tim Cahill's goal against the Netherlands.
Wow.
Just the way, the ball came in from such a long way out. The technique that he showed to be able to line it up while it was in the air and hit it with his non-preferred foot first time and smash it into the back of the net or the top of the net was pretty special. So that one for me, nice and simple.
Oh, jolly good. And that was just as a breath taker. Who should we go to next? We go to the man with the most hair, Kris.
Brilliant. I'll take the one that no one probably really wants to talk about, but I'll give it its due diligence.
It was stunning, though, wasn't it?
It was. Some overrated Dutch bloke headed a goal, and it was pretty good.
It was the little boy inside of him that did it.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So, basically the ball comes across and he headed it into the net. Jace, yours?
To be honest, I wanted to talk with that guy. Gotze, the way Germany stretched them, caught them with pace, Schürrle's ball in, fantastic. The control, the finish, it was just worthy of winning the World Cup final, wasn't it? It was a great take. And I'm chuffed for the lad because he'd had a bit of a tough time in the group stages. He wasn't firing on all cylinders, and the job that Lowe did on him, go out and prove you're better than Messi, it was fantastic and deservedly won the World Cup final.
There you go, and I loved the bit after he scored the goal. Everyone come up and congratulated him, apart from Boateng, come up, nutted him and slapped him across the face. You're not going to argue with Boateng, are you?
Classy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely. Okay, well, we all pre-decided that pre-pod what they were going to be because they were. I don't think there's anything else that comes close to any of those 4 goals. Right, we're going to get John to start this one because he's the angriest human on the podcast. A certain Lenny Messi got player of the tournament. WTF, John?
What the actual fuck? No, WTAF.
Sorry.
What the actual fuck? And then C, cunt.
I didn't realise he got it until they were moaning about it on Twitter, and I really couldn't have got it. But well, he did.
The first thing is that they do that pre the final.
Oh, that's clever.
So that's number one. Number 2, Blatter. I think every speech that he gives, he compares Messi to Ronaldo. Ronaldo's they had a very famous press conference with him prior to the World Cup, and he was comparing Messi and Ronaldo. He goes, Ronaldo's like a robot. Do this, do that. Everything is good. Everything comes out great. Messi is like a dance. This is Blatter talking. So Blatter is a complete Messi fanboy, like 90% of Twitter, because they were all born, 85 and after, 88 and after. Anyway, I just can't. I can't see any possible way that you look at that tournament and you say Messi's the player of the tournament. For the 3rd straight World Cup, and I know that his first World Cup he was a teenager, but he hasn't scored in the knockout stages of a World Cup in all 3 that he has played. 2 as, the main attraction. Not only besides that, even Maradona last night said the best of all time, when the time is upon them, they take advantage and they lift their team to greatness. And he simply didn't do it. So, even when the Argentine media, ex-players, and, arguably one of the better players, there's only 2, Pele and Maradona, let's be frank, is telling you that this kid just didn't cut it. how can you give him the player of the tournament? I mean, there's so many that we have talked about on this podcast before and today that are more deserving. I will argue even on his own team, getting him this far. They haven't scored a fucking goal in 5 hours.
Mascherano's had a better tournament.
You know,
far better.
Romero in the penalty shootout. I mean, Garay had a tremendous tournament. You know, so even on his own team, he's third, fourth choice. If Di Maria doesn't get hurt, maybe there's a different outcome last night, and he's a star of the tournament for Argentina. So, you know, I feel sorry for him because I think his myth, because I think it is a myth. I think that if you don't look back on the Barcelona years and give a plentitude of the fucking credit to Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets making that player what the myth is, then I think you haven't been paying attention.
Sorry, John, but they all get ignored by the media, don't they? Everybody else gets ignored. It's the Messi wank fest, and you know all the pieces that have made him a great player just get ignored.
Well, absolutely. I mean, listen, you know, somebody tried to say, well, he carried them. He didn't score in the group stages. How did he carry them to the final?
This is what I said in a tweet last night. I said, go on, Messi, piss off back to La Liga and score another 70 goals a season, as you are obviously the best player ever. And then I put no goals in last 16, quarter-final, semi-final or final, and I had 57 retweets. That makes me special.
You know, I mean, I just think that it's a very, very flawed argument that you're going to say that somebody is the best ever at 27, has accrued the trophies that they have in a group setting where he's probably flanked by one of the best midfields of all time, and nobody takes that into consideration. Look at the players that, you know, other players have had to play with. You know, Ronaldo at Portugal carried them to a semifinal in 2006. You know, not him himself, but with a lesser cast. You know, 4 years ago, a Messi-led Argentina got beat 4-0 by Germany. They got beat again last night, and where was he the second half? So for any arguments about him being best ever, best of the tournament, you know, I hate to use that label fanboy or fangirl, but at the end of the day, it's very apropos. You know, you can't ignore the facts, and a lot of these, you know, these people that are, you know, singing his praises and ignore the negatives are doing just that. They're ignoring the facts, and the facts are the kid doesn't play at a national team level, doesn't lift that team. So what does that say about his club level performance if he doesn't have Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, David Villa, and all those players around him to lift that team?
Dom, thoughts on that?
I don't have any. I just think, I think even one thing I will say is I'm not the biggest Messi fan, but it's not his fault that he got given that award.
True.
So, you know, he looked a bit sheepish about receiving it in the first place.
He didn't want it.
No, you could tell that he knew that it's all PR and marketing, let's be honest. It's nothing to do with who the actual best player was. It's more, we need to give it to Messi because there needs to be that story. We need to keep that, like you said, that myth going that he's probably maybe had a better World Cup than he actually did. So yeah, I'm not really big on the individual accolades either. I didn't like that they handed all the awards out at the end. I think it took away from Germany's celebrations a little bit.
Did make them wait around for an age.
Yeah.
Dom, very quick question. Best ever?
No.
Well, you mean World Cup or player?
Player. Best ever,
no.
Dom. As it's spoon-fed by the media these days.
Not for me, no.
No, wouldn't make my top three. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll go. So I hate Messi. You know.
Really? Anyone listening to the past podcast might not have realised that.
No, but you look at half-time, you know, the manager and Mascherano giving the team talk, he walks off. He's not a team player. It's all about him. You know, he got the boy Martin sacked from Barcelona. You know, if it's not about him, he doesn't want to know. And whatever, you know, it takes 11 players to win a game of football. and he doesn't care about anybody else. You can see it in him. He's the one who wants to make the changes. He's recommending this. But when the chips are down and Mascherano's trying to galvanise the team, he walks off. He's too good for that. It's a bit of a joke with him. And you've seen it when Barcelona have struggled this season. He just walks about. The press will say, oh, he's Messi, he's allowed to. They'll slate Mesut Ozil in the same time for not looking interested and still running 14 kilometres a match. It's a bit too much.
John, you just tell us what you wrote in the little bit of box down the bottom, because I noticed that what you were talking about.
Messi for the last year and a half, and for me, it's no coincidence that his lull in play has come with the lull in play of Xavi Iniesta. But not only that, I think the personal problems are finally getting to him, because he has a situation now where he's throwing up before and during matches. And a lot of people are saying those are nerves, and it's a nervous situation that's getting to him where he's throwing up, he's heaving, and like last night during the after full time, when the whole team, like Jay said, when the whole team was sitting there talking and Sabella was giving the pep talk and Mascherano was screaming at everybody, Messi was off to the side. He was throwing up, clearing his nose, talking to other members of staff, and wasn't even with the group. The other day, he's the one that told Sabella to substitute Higuain for Aguero. So we have a duplicity of, we want this to be a team game, but then we want to shower him with these individual accolades about being best ever and best current player and all this and that and the other. But I think you have to have a mix of all of that. I think you have to not only be, statistically up there, but I think that you have to lead your team. Yes, he is a wonderful player. Messi is one of the greatest players that we have ever seen, but he is not the best player we have ever seen.
You look at that season, 2011-12 for Barcelona, 73 goals in 60 games. I mean, the pressure that must give you after that, unbelievable.
Exactly, Dan. He is a wonderful footballer. We can't get away from that. I wouldn't even ignore that fact, But the bottom line is, he buys into that as well. You can distance yourself from it all. You can distance yourself from the social media, etc. Okay, you've got the tax evasion case going on. You've got all these things happening, and this guy is still dictating to the team instead of being part of the team. It's all about him. Now, sooner or later you've got to buy into the team ethos, which is what the Germans are so good at. But for Argentina, it was all about Messi.
Kris,
instead of rocking them up.
Kris, thoughts?
Yeah, just kind of sitting back and listening to that, really.
Being a manager, what would you do if you had a player that was so much better than the rest of the team that just wasn't doing it?
Don't say it.
I have got a player that's better than all of my team.
Is his name Kris?
Talking to him. I'm shit hot. No, I'm really not. Shit, yes, not hot. No, I suppose my views are a little bit different to the guys. I mean, I don't hate Messi. I agree with the points that Jace makes and that John makes with regards to the boy clearly has an ego and some of the things that are painted in the way he is, like the incident with the ball boy and obviously all the, as you say, the tax evasion, all that. The one thing I would say is if you're a global superstar, you're going to get shot at and people are going to look for things to hit you with stick-wise. So I think that's a little bit harsh to sort of bring into his kind of makeup as a person. For me, on sort of the current world stage, he is the footballer that in my opinion is the best in the world. I don't need to go through facts and figures on that. It's just the opinion I have. And I think some people can be a little bit double-sided on this one, where they say, oh, well, Messi's arrogant, he's up his own ass and everybody has to play to the way he plays on this. I don't think Ronaldo is particularly different on that stage. I mean, yes, he plays in a different way for Real Madrid, but there is still an awful lot of that sort of team is built around him and the way he plays. His ego is easily as big, if not bigger, than Messi's. And I think it just comes down to chalk or cheese. The one thing I would say is he the greatest player of all time? I don't think he is. But then equally, I don't particularly think that you can judge a player based on, I've won the World Cup. I mean, for me, Dennis Bergkamp was one of the best players of all time, and he never won a World Cup. So does that make him any less of a player?
Yeah, but Chris, sorry, can I ask you a question now, Chris?
Yeah.
Sanchez is leaving Barcelona. Why?
Mm.
Why are people leaving Barcelona in the way that they are?
Don't get it wrong. I think you're right. I think there definitely is an element of building a team around a player. I mean, at the risk of dropping it down to the levels I'm at, but it is similar even at a Sunday League level. If you've got a player that is head and shoulders above the rest of your squad, you do find that those sort of players, A, come with a bit of an ego, and B, come with that sort of knowledge of knowing that they're the best player in the team, and they generally will try and for want of a more polite phrase, take the piss a bit. And I think that there are players. I mean, I have people who play in my team that are the same, but when they're that good, I find it very difficult to leave them out. And as much as I sort of put the hammer down and say, no, I won't have egos and I won't have players that are, are going to cause disharmony, sometimes you just look at the abilities and you think, I've got to play them. And from Barcelona's point of view, I can kind of see why they've built so much around Messi. But granted, it is difficult because when you do that, you become so dependent on one player. And I think Don made the point in the last pod that if you look at the squad lists for this World Cup, Argentina have easily are one of the most talented squads on paper at the tournament, bar none. But when you put all that fabric together and you ask these players to then essentially provide a platform for one player to make the difference, it shows up when that player doesn't perform, and he didn't perform last night. The pressure obviously clearly does get to him as a footballer, and we all remember Zidane having similar chucking up issues, sort of a World Cup. I mean, even the greatest players at the very top level have an issue with performing on the biggest stages at times. The one thing I would say is Zidane obviously did it time and time again on those big stages, and Messi hasn't. So to sum up, I suppose, yeah, I agree. I agree and I disagree with sides of both arguments. I just think it's really difficult to put your hand on your heart now and say that a player is the best in the world. And we should be giving love for people like Nicolas Bentner, who clearly is the best player in the world.
I'm sure John will agree with me. I have nothing against Messi. I think Messi's a nice bloke. I love to see him do well. Ronaldo is the complete polar opposite to me. He will take a shit team and do well with them, which is John's just been typing in the little message box. And I don't like Ronaldo as a person. I don't like anything about him. But Messi, I feel sorry for him. I think Messi's a genuinely nice bloke who's really trying his best and just finding the pressure is getting on top of him. I know we've got to move this on, but John, do you want to finish off? Because being in Spain, I'm sure you've got some more stuff to say, but we do need to move it on a bit.
Well, there's a guy called Francois Gallardo here, and he says that there is a possibility that Messi could be sold to cash in. Everybody wants to talk about where's this money coming from in Barcelona. There's talk that Messi could be sold and that Barcelona have had about enough of the power struggle with him, and that they could be happy to build around Neymar. So that's just food for thought. It's all rumor. It's all paper talk. But if you look at the performances, this year and in the World Cup, where there's smoke, there is some fire.
That's very true, but I don't want anybody to think that anybody here hates Messi, because I don't think any of us are. We're just saying that he's finding it tough, and when you are that good for that long, there's a lot of expectations from you. Does everyone kind of agree with that?
I love Messi, and I like his talent. I love his talent. I think he's one of the greatest players that we have ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I dislike the media portrayal of Messi, and I dislike Messi fanboys and fangirls more than I dislike Messi.
He's struggling to live up to his own image. I know you don't like him, Chase, but
thank you. I just want to get that straight. I don't like him.
But if Messi lived next door to me, I would pop round for a cup of tea and a slice of cake. If Ronaldo lived next to me, I'd put dog shit in his car door handles.
Okay, so basically, during the World Cup final on Sunday, the third Force Fest playoff, wasn't it? Anyway, one of the games over here in the UK, it was broadcast on ITV, which is one of the big two free broadcasters for television, and an advert popped up for BT Sport, who have got a lot of rights this year for Premier League games, as well as for the first time they'll have a lot of Champions League games as well, unfortunately. This advert caused a storm. Be honest, I watched it and then didn't think anything more of it, and then I went to my Twitter feed and it just exploded with people irate, including one person sending a screenshot of cancelling their subscription over it. In short, it basically sort of highlights and makes into some massive deal the Liverpool 5-1 win over Arsenal last season at Anfield. And sort of glorifies how amazing that the game was. And essentially what it does is capture, after each goal, they cut to a different person. I think Rio Ferdinand's in it, Jose's in it, and various other Z-list celebrities. And it's just sort of glorified that game, really. And I think the tagline is something along the lines of, it all happens on BT, and drama like this can only be seen on BT or whatever. And I just wanted to touch on it, really, just that a lot of Arsenal fans were upset by it. I can see why. I wasn't particularly upset by it. I do think it was pretty cheap, and I think it was pretty classless from a so-called big broadcaster. Dom has made the point, which I'm sure he'll confirm, was that I don't really understand why a company who are looking to promote themselves would highlight 1/2 teams rather than having a sort of a montage, as you'd often see with Sky, where they'd show a combination of different goals and usually culminating in a picture of the title being held up by obviously Man City. And I know a lot of people said that it was just all about the drama and that's why they sold it. But I would say that it's a bit odd that they could only find that game when there were plenty of other games on BT that had tons of drama and incident as well. So if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. One of my friends has made a brilliant mock-up of it, which basically is a piss take, which splices out the 5-1 and inserts the Anfield 89 game, which is quite amusing. So that's worth a look up as well. But it's just a little bit naff. It's a little bit cheap. And they probably will lose subscriptions over it because some people are a little bit touchy when it comes to that. And I will just chuck in the final thing to say on it is that I don't know what Liverpool won last year. Can anyone tell us?
Sorry, this is the thing with this advert, okay? BT Sport showed the cup final live.
Yeah.
Now, I don't remember a game which was as dramatic as the cup final last year. You know, there were other options to go. If you look at the way Hull took us to the cleaners first 20 minutes, you know, that was real drama. You're talking about a TV station. I love rugby as well as football. On the Premiership playoff final last year, after the game, they were still advertising for tickets for the game that they'd just shown on TV. Mm. That's how inept they are. And they're the TV station that give us Michael Owen. I mean, how pathetic can one station be?
Their argument will be to that is that the advert is for the Premier League and it's not for. They will say, "Oh, we'll do a separate ad for FA Cup." Because my argument would be, why not show Serie A or why not show some of the Scottish games, you know? And
but there were plenty of games last season. You know, somebody's already mentioned it, the Man City game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the one I picked up.
They showed the Chelsea game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think they've showed the Chelsea game as well. You know, they can keep on in a pop at us, but we're supposed to be a preferred partner of theirs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the bit that I couldn't understand.
It's pretty poor business to alienate the fan base of one club. Mm. I'll be damned if I'm buying a BT product again. They can go shove it up their backsides.
What did you think of that, John?
Well, they talk about drama. Drama was Chelsea beating, Manchester City 1-0. Crystal Palace coming back and beating Liverpool. That's drama. I don't think an irrelevant game, match that had us, with all the injuries that we did against the Liverpool side that were in form and on stride without Europe. That's not drama for me. We all know that there's a Liverpool agenda in the British press and with the pundits and whatnot. So is it surprising? No. Is it disappointing? Absolutely. They want to ignore the ridiculous spending from Liverpool this summer. I mean, let's be serious. They sold Suarez, and they're buying, Lallana. Great little player, but they're touting him as, the next coming. But I think all of our up-and-comers are all younger than him. So, Lallana, Lambert to replace Suarez so far. It's Spurs Part 2 this summer. But everybody's ignoring that, and they want to focus on things that happened in the past. And like you said, Kris, we lifted a cup last year. They lifted fuck all. So,
and we'll probably lift fuck all again next season.
And they'll be struggling to make top 4 next year, and they'll be struggling in Europe. So I'm content with that as long as we keep on signing the Sanchez's and the like of of the world. So I'll take that and run.
The bottom line is an advert will mean absolutely nothing if we win something else next season. So, it's irrelevant, like you say, John. I agree with every word.
Right, the next section of the podcast is going to be how the Arsenal players did at the World Cup. I made a little note of what the players played for Germany did. Özil played every single game. Did I say Özil or Özil? Anyway, you know what I'm on about. Mertesacker played 4 games, and then the game against France he didn't play. And then he come on in the second half against Brazil, and then he played 1 whole minute against Argentina in the final, which I thought was brilliant bringing him on. I was sitting there cheering, going, put the fucking ball out, get the ball out, get him on, because it was so important that we had him on. I'd love to have seen Podolski come on. But Podolski only started 1 game against the USA. He got 46 minutes. He come on as a sub against Portugal and played 8 minutes, and that was it. So I was just wondering, Dom, why didn't Podolski play more, and what was up with Mertesacker?
Well, with the Mertesacker, I think there was a report that he had a bit of an illness, and I also think that it was a little bit to do with just matchups, as far as what Jürgen Low thought, as far as France probably having a little bit more pace and mobility up forward, having a rest against them. Brazil's forward line didn't really look anything too flash, so he probably was pretty happy to have him on against the Brazilians. And I think in the final, with having Messi and potentially Aguero up forward, they just chose to have a little bit of pace, which probably worked in the end. As far as Podolski goes, he did have a thigh strain during the comp, so he, that's usually about a 10-day injury. So I doubt he would have been fully fit for the last half of the tournament after that. And I think again, Schürrle seemed to be getting the nod ahead of him on that left-hand side anyway.
Anyone else got any thoughts on any of the other players, the Arsenal players who played in the World Cup? I know Vermaelen didn't really do much.
Should touch on Joel Campbell, probably briefly.
I think he was the one who, out of all the Arsenal players that didn't play for Germany, the one who had probably the most important tournament personally. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think it's going to be a very big, from what we read and hear, it's going to be a very big pre-season for Joel. I think I think it's make or break now. If he comes back now and he gets a good pre-season under his belt, which all the sort of signs and all the noises we've heard from Arsene are that he will. This is his chance now. We won't cover over old ground about how good a player, in my opinion, that I think he can be and probably already is. But I think he's at a level now. He's had Champions League experience. He's had experience of 3 different leagues, 3 different cultures. His size and his sort of strength was shown really well, and his composure and mental sort of stability in taking that penalty was a real highlight as well. It really sort of shows that he could be a sort of a player that will step up a big time. So, for example, in a run into a season, he sort of player you could probably see coming on and changing a game. I think really it's going to be between sort of him and Gnabry. I think it's safe to say Rio will probably be moving on, but probably him and Gnabry will be the ones fighting out to be the next sort of breakout wide man, if you will, from the selection we've got. And I for one hope he gets a chance. And I think it'll be probably, as I say, pre-season, and then you might see him sort of on the bench for the first couple of games, and then see where his future lies. I think we'll probably know more by December, and if he hasn't got the games, he may well end up on loan and then be another one to drift away. But I hope that he gets a chance, because his World Cup performances have more than merited that. So I think you as well, sort of on that subject, John, you had something to add to that as well.
Yeah, besides, Joel Campbell, I think you have to look at the people we obviously, are linked with right now for certainty is, Sanchez had a tremendous World Cup. A bit unfortunate not to have gone past Brazil, but I think we can attribute that to a multitude of issues. But aside from that, Debuchy, that we know that Newcastle is waiting to replace him before announcing that move. So I think he was great for France in the World Cup. Kind of kept Sagna out of the team. So we're not getting we're not getting a slouch at right back. But yeah, I think overall you can't deny the quality that we have in the team, and they performed rather well. Given the circumstances in the World Cup in Brazil.
Yeah, that's very good. Anyone got any other points I'd like to make about any other Arsenal players that plays in the World Cup? What little there was.
Yeah, I'll go on that. I thought Giroud did well.
Oh, God, of course he did. Yeah.
I thought, to be fair to Ollie, I'll give Ollie stick all day long. But I thought he did quite, I thought he's developing again. He showed his class for France. He's behind Benzema, but hey-ho. But I thought he showed really well.
How about...
I think...
Oh, go on, Kris.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you.
I
think, or from what I've been reading, Newcastle are close or in agreements or trying to get an agreement with Jan Maat from Holland as their potential right back. And I think, as John said, I think he's bang on there. I think it's just a question of getting a contract agreed for him to sign from Feyenoord, and then you'll probably see the Debuchy announcement, because I'm pretty sure from what we've read and what Lee Dixon in particular said, I'm pretty sure it's done. It's just a question of all parties waiting for one to pull the trigger to announce it.
Jan Maat, is he Bia Maat's brother?
Oh,
quite
dear.
Possibly.
He's here all week. Well, if I just quickly look through the groups, this will only take a minute. In Group A, we didn't have any players playing at all. I mean, the only close thing was Eduardo for Croatia, who didn't really get much time. And then in Group B, we had Santi for Spain, who, well, least said about the whole of the Spain situation, the better. And there was no one else there. And then in Group C, we don't have any Japanese players, do we?
Rio.
Oh?
Her name is Rio.
Yeah, he didn't play. And then in Group D, well, we had England, but the least said about that, probably the better. And Campbell, we spoke about Campbell already. And then Group E, we had the turncoat Sagna, who's buggered off. We have future Arsenal player Debuchy, who I thought, if the French manager's picking him every time, but it's odd how he'd pick Debuchy over Sagna, but then is picking not Sissoko, is it Sarko over Koscielny? So it does make you wonder, doesn't it?
It's not odd if you've watched the qualifiers, because Deschamps very loyal to Debuchy, and also he's managed, I believe I'm right in saying he's managed Sarko before, but he's got a very close bond with Sarko, and he's always preferred him over Koscielny, and although club form would say otherwise, some managers have just got a favourite. Probably.
Sorry,
that's what he thinks of Koscielny, everybody.
No, God, I just stuffed myself full of cakes.
there is another way of looking at this, and this, to add to your England mention there, the good thing, quote unquote in air marks, is Ox, Wilshere, and probably Giroud as well to an extent, and especially
Santi for Spain.
Santi for Spain, yeah. They've all had a rest.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, yeah, they've trained, but they won't have done any more with their World Cup camps than they would have done on a pre-season, because bearing in mind this year, pre-season is a lot shorter for Arsenal and all the other clubs than it would have been normally.
Yeah.
Because of the World Cup, so we're only playing 5 pre-season fixtures, including the Community Shield.
Yeah.
So if you look at it that way, they haven't been sat on their arse sort of doing nothing and getting out of shape. They've all been kept in tip-top shape with the training camps they've been on, but they haven't had match time. So if anything, it will boost them. And the only players that have really had serious match time would be the 3 Germans, although one of which you already touched on, Podolski's not really played.
Yeah.
And even if they've been playing and running through brick walls, that World Cup win is going to lift them to another level of confidence, and it's just going to want to spur them on to win more with us. So they'll come back floating on air as well. So from an Arsenal point of view, it's been a pretty good World Cup, really. I mean, now I've said that, they'll all get smashed in training and all be out for 10 weeks.
But you see in the 120th minute in the final last night, Ozil still made a run. And you think that bloke his cardio? It must be so. Dom, is that just a sign of what great cardio that player's got?
Oh, he's phenomenal. I think he's got a massive engine. I think his running ability is very much underrated. He's a lot more of a power runner than people realise, but he definitely gives off the illusion of him gliding around the pitch. But when he wants to put his foot down, he can move.
Yeah. John, have you got any last things you'd like to say about Arsenal players at the World Cup before we try and wrap this Gooner love train up?
Yeah, absolutely. Ozil, the most hated by the English media, but probably the most underrated player for that team. He runs, he tracks back, he creates. He had I think he had the most key passes in the tournament. He was always first or second in the most kilometers run. He's a provider. So if the players around him don't finish, you don't see that reflected in his stats. That's not his fault. So, this quote unquote, he's nicking a living. Well, go fuck yourself.
Let's give a little nod to our good friends at the Daily Mail. You're all a bunch of. Moving on.
Have we gone silent again?
It's just gone a little bit quiet there. If you were halfway through what you were saying, Kris.
No. That was all. I was going to swear, but I thought of the children and decided not to. I was just saying that the Daily Mail are a pack of vermin, and if anyone's nicking a living, it's their so-called reporters.
I noticed there was that bit where someone, I know our very own Jeff has had him, and so has our very own Steve. They've had him, but someone put a screen grab of the headline saying he's nicking a living, and then they've put a picture of him underneath holding the World Cup. I think that was what I saw. That's just absolutely brilliant. Anybody, all you have to do, what they should have is, and like we have, like Gimli started up the Ozil watch. What Sky and all that a lot should do is just have a camera that just put the entire, like when you're at a football match, you don't watch what the camera is watching. You will pick out things that you want to watch. Now, if you spent the entire time with Ozil Cam watching Ozil play for 90 minutes, as well as on another screen having the actual game, you would realise what a player he is. He just is the complete player. And he's so unselfish.
When I moved from Madrid to Barcelona, the last season I was in Madrid was 2011, and I got to watch him about, a good 12, 13 times. It really is deceiving how quick he is and how he just moves defenses around. And, everybody says, oh, well, you always defend Ozil. But just watching him, if you just pay attention to the little things he does during a match, you understand why all his teammates love him.
That's one of the things when you first start going, because not being mean about people on Twitter, but so many have never been to see a game live. And when you do, I remember the first 10, 15 games I went to, I'd spent the whole time looking around at the crowd going, wow. You don't even spend the whole time watching the game. And then once you start getting comfortable into being at games, you start to pick up things like you'll watch. I remember years ago, I used to always watch the interaction between Petit and Vieira. And seeing how one of them would go forward, then the other one would fall back, and then see stuff off the ball. Even like little things when they've fouled someone and they go to give them a hand up, they pinch the underneath of their arms, or they stand on their feet. There's so much more to a game than what the telly shows, which is like John was saying. But Ozil, just what a fantastic player.
Just to draw a line under this probably topic, I can't emphasise enough that Dom is absolutely spot on, and he said this a few times, and I'll repeat it again. It's hits and it's clicks, and the more of us that bite to these ridiculous comments, and I hold my hands up sometimes. I look at things and I have to physically stop my hands touching the keyboard because it winds you the hell up. But people who write this crap and that it's their job. Unfortunately, our supporters, we do like to jump on things, and we are notorious for kicking up a stink about certain things. So we just got to sit back and just remember we've got Mesut Ozil, they haven't. Fuck them.
And that's one great thing about our podcast is we have no advertisers, we have no sponsors, we have nothing. Everything we do, we don't have to worry about what we say. We don't do it for clicks, we do it for the passion of the game, and more people should try and do that. Hey, John.
Touché.
Absolutely.
Right, okay, now then, we've been doing this for what seems like 6 hours. The last thing we need to talk about is signings and Jack. So I know we're only going to say a little bit about the recent stuff on Twitter about Jack being a silly boy. John, do you want to explain what happened?
Well, apparently, the lad's on vacation. Fucking shocker. He's in Vegas. He's acting a bit of an early 20s, teenage or, late teens kid. Listen, the kid has money. He's a young guy, he's got to grow up. But at the end of the day, I think this 24/7 news cycle, has kind of chewed him up and spit him out, and has, his bad decisions coupled with the necessity for news has, kind of met and kind of overblown everything, I think. Are there need for role models? Absolutely. Should he probably think about things that he's done better and, keep him a little bit more private? Absolutely. Do we need to crucify the kid? And Messi smokes. I don't see anybody making a big deal about that. So just kind of let's lay off Jack a little bit, and, growing pains will be what they are.
Bit like the last thing where it's just stuff for clicks. You're not going to see a centre page spread of Jack with his 2 kids. And I think he's married or his long-term partner. You're not going to see stuff like that. And like Jack saying, how much I love being a dad. But he does one little thing like this wrong. Oh, it's not even wrong. It's just silly. Then the press are all over it because there's no such good news doesn't sell papers or get clicks anymore. And that's all I've really got to say. And anyone else want to mention anything about it?
Just a brief one, if I may. Yeah. I agree with everything John said. Sort of brief devil's advocate. I was a little bit bothered by the pictures in that you wouldn't sort of see an Aaron Ramsey being caught in those sort of positions. But like John said, personalities are very different. He's a London boy, and that's probably how he's been brought up. And I think he strikes me as a bit more rough around the edges than maybe an Aaron Ramsey is. But at the end of the day, really, to sum up in one sentence, the only person that can destroy Jack Wilshere's Arsenal career is Jack Wilshere, and I don't see any reason why two pictures in the paper are going to do that. He's got a manager that believes in him, and if the manager thinks he's doing anything out of line, we've got to have the trust that the manager will have a word with him behind the scenes, as he did previously, get him back on the straight and narrow. Ian Wright wasn't exactly a poster boy for well behaved actions, and he did all right, didn't he?
I'm not bothered by the pictures, just because if you know anything about photography, you can take X amount of pictures per second.
Yeah.
So, did they pick up one frame out of how many, they decide to pick out? A lot of things can be misconstrued. So anything that the media do these days, I don't trust. I'll have my trust in the player that he'll come back to preseason and he'll be ready to go rock.
He's got bad taste snogging Joe Hart, I will say that much.
Yeah, it is a little bit questionable, but at least one good thing, he's not going to get covered in dandruff, is he?
That's very true.
Yeah. Right, to round this up finally, are there any more bits we need to talk about the transfers? Because that's what everybody likes to hear. We've covered it in bits and bobs all around the podcast today.
Khedira.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go on, John.
Well, Khedira is supposedly on the move. He's moving. Cruz signed for Real Madrid. And as much as they would love to keep Khedira, he's already, decided not to renew. So it's just going to be a matter of who's going to pay his wages. Listen, we've all seen the reports, $150K per week. I don't see that being as realistic, but, agents will ask what they want. 120, 130 a week, I think isn't unreasonable. We've pretty much doubled Ozil's wages. We've doubled Alexis Sanchez's wages. So if we went and doubled Khedira's wages, I don't think it would be unreasonable, and that would be around 140 a week, I believe. He's on the last year of his contract. He wants to make an impact. If you see all the pictures from the World Cup, he's always hanging around with Mertesacker, Podolski, Ozil, and himself. So where he'll end up, nobody knows. Real Madrid want to re-sign him. He is refusing. Who's going to pay it? Will it be us or will it be Chelsea? We shall see.
And if he does, I know at Real Madrid when he first signed, he was the number 24 shirt, I'm reading on Wiki, and then now he's the number 6. If he comes to Arsenal, he won't be the number 6 because that is Ron Koscielny, but number 24 is Abu Dhabi, who has already lost the 2, and it looks like he may lose the 24 as well. But it's just a sign of how great our club are and going forwards with all the players we're signing. Have you got any views on this, Dom?
Yeah, as far as Khedira goes, I think we spoke about this on the last podcast about if we needed him, what position he would play, all those sorts of things. One thing we didn't really speak about too much is the fact that, I mean, we bought Arteta when he was an attacking midfielder at Everton, and he was asked to do a job as a defensive midfielder. So when you've got someone that's played the level that Khedira has, that has, he's now a World Cup winner, a Champions League winner. He was picked in the first 11 for Real Madrid for basically the whole time that he was there. He's more than capable of converting himself to being a more defensive-minded midfielder because he has those qualities. So with people saying that, he's box to box and they worry about that, then, if Arsene Wenger thinks he's good for us, then I'm not going to question that. So as far as, do we need him? I think absolutely. You'd always need quality signings like that. And I think that he could quite easily morph himself into being a more defensive-minded midfielder if that's, in fact, what the manager thinks that we need. I think he's got a certain amount of qualities that you'd look for as far as, you don't, in midfield now, I think gone are the days of having a big lumbering oaf that just kicks lumps out of people. I think if you're looking for a defensive midfielder, I mean, Schweinsteiger in the game last night and maybe sort of the last few years of his career with how he sort of adapted his game. He reads the game so well. He's such an intelligent footballer that what he might lack in pace now that he's getting on a bit, he makes up for in smarts. He does a lot more cutting out of balls, but he's also so good at being on the ball and passing the ball, and he's confident. So I think Khedira has all of those same sort of similar qualities. The only knock I've got is his pace. That's it. But if you're smart enough, like Mertesacker, and you read the game well enough, you sort of don't get caught out too often with the lack of pace. As far as his injury goes, I'm not, from what I've seen, I'm pretty happy. I think his lateral movement's been really good. I know that he had a bit of a calf problem just before the World Cup in the warm-up, which kept him out, which, to be honest, if you're coming back off a massive knee reconstruction like he was, the last thing you want is to go into a World Cup tournament or a tournament of any kind. You want to have a situation where you can be brought into the team slowly but surely and get your match fitness up at a more steady, reasonable rate. So being at a World Cup was the last thing that he would have wanted, but he got through pretty well, and he actually sort of seemed to be getting better and improving as the World Cup went on. So it just shows the kind of quality and the class of the guy.
Very good. Jace, what's your final thoughts on Khedira and yet another German joining our wonderful club?
Oh, the more the merrier. The more the merrier. He's a great player, Yeah, I'd prefer a more a ready defensive midfielder, but as has been said, he's a top quality footballer. He can do any job given to him, and some of the best defensive midfielders have played further up. So he'd be a great addition to the squad, wouldn't he? It'd be fantastic. I say buy them all.
Right, we've got two more things to talk about and then we're done. Kris, a little bit about the player you want to talk about. Is it Ospina? Yeah,
just a brief one really. I've got a friend who I know in France who usually gives me sort of most up-to-date reports on what he hears over there. So obviously it's only the equivalent of what we get news down here, so don't take it as gospel. But there was reports around the weekend that David Ospina, the Colombia goalkeeper, was in London and was looking at some premises, whether that be to buy or rent. And the reports in France this evening, from what he's told me, are that the personal terms are pretty much agreed. And it's just a question of sorting out the signing on fee. What he did say apparently is there are two other sides that are still interested, or two other teams, that unnamed teams that are interested. So I wouldn't say it's a done deal, but much like Khedira, there's quite a lot of smoke. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of concrete in that rumour.
Okay, lovely. Right, the final two players we're going to talk about, transfer-wise, is Morgan Schneiderlin, who we're looking at about £20-ish million from Southampton, but also, this is along with Khedira, also looking at Bender from, because they're twins. One of them is at Dortmund. Where's the other one at?
Leverkusen, Lars.
Lars. So there you go. So, if I had to pick them in order, see, I'm a bit torn because I like the idea of Schneiderlin because he's played in the Premier League and he's played in the two divisions below. He's going to cost less on wages, but he's going to cost more on transfer fee. But then I did say Khedira, I wasn't overly happy with him, but that's because he had a slow start to the World Cup. But I would personally, out of the three of them, I would pick Khedira first, Schneiderlin second, Bender third. John, what's your order of preference about them, or would you like to say anything?
Bender, Khedira, Schneiderlin, kind of even.
Yeah, reason?
Okay, I think Bender's a little bit more defensive-minded, and I know a lot of people are going to. Somebody told me Bender's not a defensive midfielder. I never said he was. He's he's a box-to-box. I think a little bit like Dom said. These players these days that play that position aren't going to be sitting back and just nasty tackle after nasty tackle. They're going to want to get forward. So. But he's a little bit more defensive-minded. He was the second leading tackler in Bundesliga last year. So for me, it would be Bender and Styling. Khedira would be on par with each other.
Dom, your thoughts on those three and which order you'd like them to have in?
I think, the fact that we're talking that kind of calibre for a transfer now is pretty exciting, isn't it? Rather than having to talk about people like, going back 18 months, we're talking about Diame from West Ham potentially coming in, and now we're talking about people like a Real Madrid player that's just won a World Cup. We're talking about that, and then thinking, maybe I'd prefer someone else over him. So it just goes to show the level we're at now, which is great. But for me, I agree with John. I think Bender, he's got the athletic ability that maybe Khedira is missing. He's a little bit younger. He's, good on the ball. He does a lot of tackling and a lot of hard work back there. And then, same for me. Khedira Schneiderlin would be on a par. I really do rate Schneiderlin. I think that if we do, say, get Khedira and then we go another season and lose Arteta or Flamini or Diaby, then getting Schneiderlin in a year's time would be absolutely perfect. So that's how I'd probably structure things if I was running the show.
Okay, right. Penultimately, Jason, give us some Welsh justice on defensive midfields. Which would you have and why?
Bender.
How dare you? I only asked you a question.
Bender. No, I just like Lars Bender. Every time I've watched German football, I seem to watch Leverkusen. I just think he's a cracking player. And he thinks he's had a bad season this year. So, if that's a bad season, cracking. Welcome to the Emirates.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him there, and one of Khedira and Schneiderlin. There's by two of them, is it? But to be honest with you, any one of those names, fantastic. But my preference would be Bender.
Okay. And to finish this off, talking about this defensive midfield position, Kris, and then after that, if you want to say a few...
Sorry, I thought you were going to say talking of Benders.
Cheeky bastard.
Oh, sneaky.
Burn.
Right, so then give us your views on this, Kris, and then do you want to say a few thank yous to the people that have been helping out the Barbican Pirates, and then after that, I will wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, Bender for me would be the one. Just purely on much what the lads have said. I like the fact that he can play left back as well. I like the fact that he can step into the back four. That's kind of useful as a player, to have that sort of opportunity to move players around if the need arises. I must admit, I'm growing on Khedira. When the announcement was made first, I thought, don't know, a lot of money, not sure, but I'm sort of starting to become a little bit suckered into the idea of it's another statement and it's another player that could arguably give us 4 years of real drive in that midfield and almost exactly word for word what Dom said. It's a huge upgrade on what we've been linked with in the past. But having said all that, I wouldn't be disappointed with Schneiderlin because he would do a job for us as well. So I would probably say that if I had a choice of all of them, then yeah, it would be Bender that would be the one. But I'm certainly not disappointed by Khedira at all.
Jolly good. And you want to mention a bit about the Barbican Pirates and the people that have been helping you out?
Yeah, just to touch anyone that didn't hear the last pod or hasn't heard the recent pods, obviously our team, Barbican Pirates, has been adopted by the podcast and by the guys, and thank you again for that. We've just finished or just finalised our shirt designs, which if you're happy to do, I'll send you a picture to shove up later on through the account so people can have a look at that. But I just wanted to thank people that have donated thus far. Donations are ongoing. There's an Arsenal shirt up for grabs for any donation of £1 or more that goes into the donation page, which is on our website, which you can find at barbicanpiratesfc.com. There's a donate button on the top right hand corner of the bar. And just wanted to give a quick thanks to the following people: Matt Village, Mark Tagg, Raymond Cruz III. That's a very, very interesting name. I like that one. Jordan Rammel, Dylan Monroe, Adam Ring, and James Leake. Those people have donated thus far, all in varying different amounts, all been very generous. I just wanted to thank you all for that. And again, anyone that has got a spare couple of quid down the back of the sofa that wants to contribute, every penny helps, and I really appreciate it.
And we all know Mark lives in Australia, and we're very well aware of Dirty Dylan.
Yes, in fact, three of the donations that I've just read out there, 2 are from America and 1 was from Australia. So, and as we've said in the previous pods, I mean, I know it probably comes across a little bit sort of grovelly, but grassroots football is very tough these days, and it's quite hard to keep a club together. So, as I said before, I'm very grateful for anything that anyone contributes, and it's really appreciated from everyone.
Jolly good. Right, people, this is the last podcast we're going to do of the season. There was talk of a fantasy football one, but I've tried 5 times to get that together, and if people aren't going to reply to the tweets and messages, then I'm not going to do it. So this looks like it's going to be the last one of the season. So thank you very much to everybody for listening. This is podcast number 61 of so far the first season. The next one is going to be, we think, about the beginning of the second week in August. We're going to start with one between the Emirates Cup and the Charity Shield, halfway between the two of those, and then we're going to do another pre-season one, and then it's going to be full go for the new season. So I'm personally going to be taking a month off from Twitter because I can't stand the ITKs. Thank you very much, Kris, Jason, John, and Dom for joining me this afternoon.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank the listeners for the 1.5 million hits over the last few
Wow, that
months.
is stunning. And paying for us, so it means all of our podcast bills are now covered up until August 2015. So thank you all very much for that. Thank you to all of our 14,000 followers, and for just backing us all the way. And this will continue to be a podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. And thank you to all the people that have been on it in the last 61 episodes. And we will all be back in August. So this was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast, World Cup final edition. Nanu Nanu, you cheeky monkeys, and hello to Jason Isaacs.
Saludo.
Cheerio.
Adios. Hwyl fawr.
Okay, this is Norwegian Kris at the World Cup. I found my way to Rio. I'm in the car with Amy Lawrence. What are you doing here at the World Cup, Amy?
I am absolutely loving it, despite the fact as we look out the window it is pouring with rain, which is not quite what we bugged for, but it's a kind of pinch yourself city, and to be at the World Cup in Brazil is, I suppose, a sort of fulfilment of a lifetime dream, really.
Yeah, today is the first semi-final between Brazil and Germany. How do you see that going?
Probably most of these games are going to be tight, and I mean you expect them to be either decided by a moment of genius or maybe a terrible mistake. So there's just so much emotion around the Brazil team, and you can't help but sense this. It's almost felt anxious as well as excited from day one, and that anxiety obviously has grown so much with Neymar's injury. So. I think there's going to be a sense of desperation and a hope that they can get through on emotion as much as anything else.
So you want Brazil to win? Because you're here?
Actually, I think you always want a home nation going far. Always brings a certain flavour to a tournament. Yeah. But when you get towards the semi-finals, I think ultimately, as a neutral, you want the best teams to be in the final to give it the best possible chance of the best final. Okay.
And this being an Arsenal podcast, let me ask you about the Arsenal. Who do you think we should sign? Who do you expect, or who do you think we need?
Well, I have no idea when this is going to be broadcast, but at the time of us chatting, the Mathieu Debuchy rumours seem to be pretty close to completion.
Do you think we need him?
Well, a right back is imperative. Arguably, you want a right back who can also play centre back, which Sanya managed to cover those 2 roles, and brings into question, whether signing a specialist right back is enough, or whether it ideally would be someone a bit more utility-esque. Yeah. I'm not sure Debuchy is that man. No. One thing I would say is, having watched a bit of Debuchy before he went to Newcastle, I thought he looked like a really great prospect, and in some ways, I'm I'm not sure that he's developed massively being at Newcastle. Obviously, the experience of Premier League football is a good one as far as Arsenal's concerned if you've got someone who's Premier League ready. But I think he's capable of being a better player than he showed at Newcastle.
Yeah.
So I would be looking to him to improve on those performances. Yeah. And obviously, he's been keeping Sagna out the France side, which tells its own story. But like a lot of those situations, the truth is not always that straightforward. I mean, for example, Sarko or Koscielny, I think most Arsenal fans would have a different answer to that than Didier Deschamps.
Yeah. Who else? Anyone else you can think of?
Well,
we were talking earlier about a striker.
Yeah, I mean, from an attacking point of view, Arsenal's interest in Alexis Sanchez predates the World Cup, I think. And there is definitely a feeling from the club that they're very hopeful that might happen. But as everybody knows who's sat through any Arsenal transfer window, that things that the club hope might happen and what actually happens are not always the same thing. So I think we have to, probably Arsenal fans will have to cross fingers, toes and any other body parts
Do you
to
think
see if that
he's
will
the
happen.
kind of striker, quote unquote, striker we need?
I think the most exciting thing that he would bring is phenomenal technique at great pace. And anybody, you don't have to be an expert to have looked at Arsenal last year and realised that there have been moments when, particularly when Walcott was injured and when Ramsey was out with his driving runs, that the lack of any speed and velocity was really killing the team and seemed to have such a negative impact on the whole strategy. So a player like that who's got physique, personality, power, huge amount of pace, skill, he does tick an awful lot of boxes. I can't see that it can be anything other than exciting news if that comes through.
So Arsenal fans should be happy with Sanchez.
I think that would be a great move for Arsenal.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the only move that you'd want. Ideally speaking, I think obviously it'd be interesting to see what happens with Joel Campbell as well. One would imagine that he comes back and is ready to compete for a place in the team. But you still would probably have to cut him some slack. He's a young guy who would be new to English football, who is a developing prospect. I think people expecting him to walk in and lead the line maybe need to rein in expectations a little bit.
Yeah. That makes me think of Sonogo. What are your opinions on Yaya Sonogo?
Well, I think Sonogo's immediate future is probably a little bit linked with Joel Campbell's, because there is a logic that if Campbell comes in who looks more ready for the task, perhaps a season on loan or a half season on loan might be really beneficial to Sonogo. Because he did look raw last year. He's definitely got some qualities and seems to be a handful for opposition defenders. But he just needs development time. So I think that might be quite a useful way around it, but it just depends how many other attackers come in, because you do need numbers as well.
Yeah, quite. And I promised to keep this short, so I'll do it now. Danny wanted me to ask you, did you enjoy being on the podcast when you were on the podcast?
I did enjoy being on the podcast. Amazingly enough, I love talking about football.
Yeah.
So,
who was your favourite? Who was your favourite podcaster?
I could not possibly begin to say. No way, I'm not getting into that kind of trouble.
Because GC took quite a shining to you.
Well, GC's got a good taste in music, so that's something that serves him well.
Okay, enjoy the rest of the World Cup.
Thanks a million.
For chatting.
Cheers.
Okay, this is Norwegian Kris at the World Cup. I found my way to Brasilia, and I'm joined by the manager of Arsenal Brasilia. Your name is?
Luan. Hello, everybody.
Nice to meet you. And Luan has, you've just created Arsenal Brasilia because Brazil is such a big country, obviously, so your supporters club is divided into subdivisions. How long have you been going for?
I created Arsenal Brasilia about 4 months ago, and we have the first meeting in FA Cup final last season. And we have the support of Arsenal Brazil, the official fan club in Brazil for Arsenal. And we're starting growing. We're getting new members. We have only 20 right now, but we have plans to grow up more, and I think we can make like 50 members. It's going to be a good number.
Well, there are 3 million people in Brasilia, so there should be a lot of Arsenal fans in Brasilia. You just got to find them.
Yeah, that's funny because there's such a huge population for a small city like here. But Arsenal don't have a lot of fans because of the lackness of Brazilian players there. Like the new Brazilians generation of players in Chelsea and Manchester City makes all the younger teenagers and kids to support them and not Arsenal. And the lack of titles makes Arsenal a difficult attraction here.
Yeah. So what you really need is Arsenal to buy a Brazilian. That would make your job a lot easier.
Yeah, it would make like not so true members, but we can get like plastic members.
Yeah. We don't want them anyway.
Yeah, we don't want to. Probably if Arsenal make some good seasons and won more titles and become more spoken here, maybe we can get more members.
Yeah.
It's gonna be nice.
And who are your Brazilian teams? You're an Arsenal fan, and who else do you support?
I support São Paulo. It's a huge Brazilian team. And I support a local team, a small one, is Gama.
But for you, Arsenal are number one.
Yes, Arsenal is my number one.
So if São Paulo win the Copa Libertadores or Arsenal win the Champions League, which would you go for?
Oh, I go for I draw.
Oh, okay.
Go to the penalty then. Let the luck go.
Well, tell me why you supported Arsenal, or how you started supporting Arsenal.
I started to support Arsenal in 2002. After the World Cup, in the World Cup I watched Henry and Pires and a lot of good players in the national squads of France, and I start to get interested in there and search it where did they play, and I discovered Arsenal and started watching Arsenal, and I fall in love for the club.
Because that was your first World Cup. You were 10.
Yeah, it's the first I really remember, because 1998 I was like 6 years old, and I don't remember too much, just flashes.
Yeah.
So that was.
So it's Thierry Henry and Robert Pires that got you interested in the Arsenal, and you've stayed with us.
Especially, and then Dennis Bergkamp when I saw him play in Arsenal.
Yeah.
So, it's impossible to not fall in love in them.
Yeah, right. And you had Tim Payton visit here. He was here for the World Cup, and he came and met you and met a couple of the other Arsenal Brasilia members.
Yeah, it was a nice meeting because we didn't expecting him, and like the day before he came, he sent messages on the internet and asked if we can receive him in Brasilia, like we can support him in transportation and some food and show some things about the city. And it was nice. We got 4 members in the meeting. We take some beers, have a little chat. He explained about a lot of stuff like England Gunners in AST stuffs. He explains a lot of what happens in Arsenal fans clubs in England. So it was a really nice experience.
Yeah. So you encourage any Arsenal fans coming to Brazil, and specifically to Brasilia, to send you an email, get in touch on Twitter, and you can show them around.
Everyone's gonna be welcome here.
Yeah.
I think Brazil is a nice country. We have more than 450 Gunners associated to Arsenal Brazil in all over the country, so you can go wherever you want and you're gonna find a Gunner there. And Brazil is nice because it's a new city. We have like 55 years old. The city was planned and built in the shape of an airplane, so it's really nice. It's different from everything, and could be a good experience for everybody who can.
Well, I personally encourage any Arsenal fans travelling to get in touch with the local supporters clubs, because that's how it's worked for me. I was coming to Brasilia and I didn't have anywhere to stay. Got in touch with Arsenal Brazil and they put me in touch with you.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky to be able to stay at your house, and your show today you're going to show me around.
Yeah.
Yesterday you took me to the game, or at least showed me the stadium. We watched the second game together. So for me, travelling, meeting Arsenal fans is like a door to experiencing a new city, experiencing obviously the people and the culture, and keeps me away from the other fans of the other teams.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about being a Gunner, is the community. Like everybody's friend with everybody.
Yeah.
Like a gunner recognize another gunner as a brother. So we support everybody from inside Brazil and outside Brazil. It's always a pleasure to know new people.
Yeah.
Like, it's a Brazilian thing. We like to new people. We like to be the hosts of the people. We like to receive them in our houses.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's really nice that everybody who came to World Cup, the gunners who came, and we have this meeting. I think it's good for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about this summer then, or well, it is the summer now. After the World Cup, who do you want to see Arsenal buy?
Oh,
let's like keep it a bit short. Three. Let's assume you can only buy 3 players because we know what Wenger's like. He's not going to buy more.
Yes, like I think Debussy is done, so I'm gonna say another 3 names. I think Keylor Navas from Costa Rica is a great goalkeeper. He would make a huge competition with Chesney, and this is gonna make him develop himself because he's too young. It's gonna be good for him. I think Vidal for defensive midfielder, the Chile guy. He's really good, and he's tall, he's aggressive, and he attacks good, in a good way. I like it. And I wish Wenger signs Mandzukic, because I think he's on the market, because Bayern Munich have signed Lewandowski, and he's going to be like in the bench, and we can pick him. And he's good, he's a good header, he knows how to control the ball, to make passes to the other guys who came behind him. It's going to be a good sign.
Okay. Goalkeeper, central midfielder, striker.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Okay, and your Twitter handle, what's your name on Twitter?
Yes, is Arsenal _BSB, Arsenal Brazilian, right? So you can meet me on Facebook and talk with me and ask everything you want. I would be honored.
Cool.
To keep in contact.
Well, from my point of view, thank you very much for putting me up, and today we're going to go and see Brasilia, so I'm looking forward to that. Should we go?
Yeah, it's going to be a historical tourism.
Cheers, man.
It's Norwegian Kris at the World Cup. I'm on the Copacabana beach watching Argentina against Holland. Just not in the FIFA Fan Fest, but on the side of it because we couldn't get in. And I found another Gooner, Danish, Sri Lankan Gooner. What's your name?
Nima.
Nima. Tell me, why are you an Arsenal fan? How did you become an Arsenal fan?
How can you not? I love the team. I've been loving it for 15 years, I think, since 1990 something. The Bergkamp Wonderland era. How amazing! Just amazing. Yeah.
What was the one thing? Was there one thing that got you supporting?
There was the one thing, but it was kind of silly. It was like the FIFA 99 game with Bergkamp on the cover. I guess that's it. that's kind of silly, but that's how it started, I guess.
But you stayed a Gooner the whole time?
Yeah, I did, for sure.
And what are you doing at the World Cup? Denmark aren't here, so
yeah,
and Sri Lanka didn't make it either.
I don't know. I've been living in Argentina for 2 months, and yeah, so now it's just supporting Argentina, having a lot of fun, meeting new people, just fucking around, I guess.
And the summer's here already. Lots of rumours flying about. Who do you think the Arsenal need to sign?
Well, I think somebody like Sanchez would be perfect. We need somebody on the left who got pace, who can like take people on one-on-one, dribbling skills. Just somebody who do the unexpected. There's so many games where we're so like it's so easy to read our game. We pass it around. We need somebody who can like break that. Somebody like Sanchez who like take a player on, get past him, cross the ball, like get Giroud involved. Just do something,
Yeah, because
we need that.
Just a little bit of context. What's the day? Wednesday? Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah,
so by the time this podcast comes out, Sanchez might be an Arsenal player.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Might be confirmed. Who else? Any other players you want to see? Or positions?
We obviously need a right back, obviously. I love Aria from Toulouse, the Ivorian guy. I love that. Debussy will be okay, I guess. He'll be a short-term solution though. And also we obviously need another striker, obviously. Somebody to compete with Giroud, somebody like Louis Remy maybe. Somebody who will be the same level but still come and push him to the edge. something like that. I like Giroud. I think he's a good striker. So,
but numbers essentially. We need numbers.
Yeah, we do. We need numbers. Yeah. For sure.
Okay. Good. Well, nice to meet you, Nima. Thanks for that.
Nice to meet you too, man. Take care.